News.
Kosovo peace deal on the cards, but it could be hours away. On his way to prison, Aitken jailed for 18 months. Eurosceptics all slow down on Europe, they say. And Keegan's gamble with reshaped England team.
From ITN, the ITV Nightly News with Dermot Monaghan.
Good evening. A peace deal over Kosovo is imminent tonight, and it may just be hours away. NATO and Yugoslav generals met up again this evening in the same tent where the talks foundered at the weekend. This time there's more confidence, but no deal yet. In what was widely welcomed as a crucial breakthrough earlier today, the Western powers and Russia agreed the wording of a draft resolution, which is being put to the United Nations. Kevin Dunn has the latest from Macedonia.
A flurry of intense military activity at the Kumanovo airbase just inside Macedonia signalled the meeting of NATO and Yugoslav generals was imminent. The Serb generals, who less than 48 hours ago left here in defiance, slipped quietly into the base, almost unnoticed. Then General Sir Mike Jackson, NATO's ground commander, arrived carrying the agreement on a Serb withdrawal from Kosovo he now expected the Yugoslavs to sign. 20 minutes later, the full Yugoslav delegation of generals, Interior Ministry and Foreign Ministry officials drove in convoy to the giant canvas aircraft hangar specially built for these meetings. The sticking points had been over Yugoslavia's insistence on keeping several thousand troops in Kosovo. They had also resisted NATO's rapid timetable for a withdrawal. The question was, had they now accepted NATO's conditions in full? If so, NATO forces could begin moving into Kosovo within 24 hours. That would not be the end of the Kosovo conflict, but the beginning of the end. Kevin Dunn, ITN, Kumanovo, Macedonia.
Kevin, what's happening there now?
What's happening, Dermot, is that the two sides are now meeting in the giant camouflaged canvas aircraft hangar, a kind of a big tent really, which you can see behind me. The two sides led by General Sir Mike Jackson on the NATO side and by Yugoslavia's Deputy Chief of Staff of the Army. And the two sides are meeting to discuss the so-called technical military agreement, which will cover the when, where and how exactly of how the Serbs withdraw from Kosovo. And we're told that it hasn't happened yet, but we can expect that agreement to be signed tonight.
And Kevin, is there any suggestion that it could develop into another major hold-up?
A hold-up? No, I don't think so, but we could be in for a long night. It is a detailed document. It runs to 6 pages and many clauses, and the NATO and Serb delegations both want to go through it clause by clause to put the flesh on the bones of that agreement. But an agreement we do expect.
Kevin Dunn, thanks a lot. The Pentagon tonight reported signs that Serb forces are preparing to pull out of Kosovo with transport vehicles on the move. And this afternoon, Tony Blair told MPs that the international peacekeeping force could be going in by the end of this week. Here's Robert Moore.
Finally, after weeks of intense discussion, the foreign ministers were smiling. The Western powers and Russia have reached a deal on the text of a UN resolution. It's widely seen as the key part of the diplomatic jigsaw, and it paves the way for the Serb withdrawal and an agreed international peacekeeping force entering Kosovo. The Russians had objected to NATO being the core of the force, but that has been overcome. Tonight, the diplomats appear tantalizingly close to leaving the Serbs with no option other than to withdraw.
This has a NATO core, and NATO will be the military leader.
Provided Belgrade cooperates and is willing to make the same rapid speed that we want to make, then there is no reason why the remaining steps in the process could not be completed within days.
Western leaders know that a remarkable victory is at hand, one that seemed so improbable for much of the air war, but they are also taking nothing for granted.
The key now, as it has been from the beginning of this process, is implementation. A verifiable withdrawal of Serb forces will allow us to suspend the bombing and go forward with the plan.
And in London, the Prime Minister and the German Chancellor believe Mr Milosevic has been cornered. But Mr Blair also acknowledged there would be mounting risks for British servicemen.
Our armed forces have been running risks these past few weeks, and they will run more risks in Kosovo. But I think with the right command structure and with the highly competent military leadership we have, we can minimise those risks.
So tonight, the Prime Minister and the other Western leaders are waiting for Belgrade to make its move, to begin the withdrawal that will trigger both the UN vote and the entry into Kosovo of NATO's forces. NATO's strikes are still underway. Another Yugoslav oil refinery was ablaze today. But these could be the final hours of the air war, with the Pentagon reporting there are signs of preparations for a Serb withdrawal from Kosovo. Robert Moore, ITN.
Jonathan Aitken is tonight in jail, starting an 18-month sentence for lying and perverting the course of justice. The judge said it had been inexcusable to involve his daughter in the lie. Michael Brunson reports.
The face of a man convicted of perjury and obstruction of justice. Jonathan Aitken tonight, the shot taken through the windows of the prison van, which carried him away from the Old Bailey to begin his prison sentence. This morning, the look on his face may have been more composed, but the brightness, the overconfidence perhaps of the old Jonathan Aitken had already gone. You could see in his eyes a broken man, resigned already to a jail sentence. Also arriving at court, Jonathan Aitken's mother and his sister Maria, and then his daughters, one of them Victoria, then just 16, made to lie for her father in a false witness statement. The judge, Mr. Justice Scott Brown, indicating early in the proceedings how grave a matter that was. A handful of other friends, the Tory MP Roger Gale, for example, came to give support. Famously, Jonathan Aitken had once talked of wielding the sword of truth to clear his name. Now at the Old Bailey, it was a matter of what someone like his old boss at the Ministry of Defence, Malcolm Rifkin, could say to lessen the sentence that would be passed on him.
My comments were about Mr Aitken's very valuable contribution as a Minister of the Crown. He was a very fine Minister of the Crown. The public interest benefited as a result of that contribution.
In court, the judge heard Defence Counsel speak of Mr Aitken's great remorse now, and how a relatively small lie about a Paris hotel bill had grown and grown as Mr Aitken desperately sought to protect his reputation, leading to very serious offences and ultimately the Old Bailey dock. Leaving that dock after being sent to jail, Mr Aitken blew a final kiss to his mother and weeping daughters. So any memory of the dashing Jonathan Aitken, the politician who was always a bit of a chancer but who did after all make it to the cabinet table, has to be replaced tonight by something far less attractive. The broken politician, languishing in jail because he took one chance too many, the belief that he could simply lie and lie his way out of trouble. Michael Brunson, ITN at the Old Bailey.
A man was still being questioned by police tonight about the discovery of 14 pipe bombs at a house in a loyalist area of Lurgan in County Armagh. Families on the Mornview estate were told to leave their homes while the bombs were defused. The find came just days after Liz O'Neill was killed by a pipe bomb thrown into her home nearby. The main party leaders, Paddy Ashdown, for the last time, have tonight all been trying to whip up some enthusiasm for the European elections, which are the day after tomorrow. As we saw earlier, Tony Blair had the German Chancellor by his side. William Hague had Michael Portillo. Lauren Taylor reports.
Tonight, the campaigning took on a harder edge, with the parties turning on each other. The Tories want the vote to be a form of referendum on the single currency. William Hague was joined on the platform by the man some had hoped would have his job, Michael Portillo, to ram home a Eurosceptic message, and he made it a personal attack on the Prime Minister.
It's two-faced when he croons about his love for the pound before the last general election, and then commits to abolishing the pound in principle after the election. Not so much I love the pound as the pound love rat.
Labour was pushing the image of Blair the statesman. His stage partner was the German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder. But he too chose to attack, describing the Tories as increasingly marginalised.
That is the choice. Leading Europe or leaving Europe. That is Thursday's choice. A Labour Party united around the pro-Europe, pro-reform position, or a Conservative Party as divided and rudderless as ever.
For the Liberal Democrats, tonight's rally was Paddy Ashdown's last as party leader, but he also devoted most of his speech to laying into the Tory position.
They seem to think that you can treat international politics like a trip round the sweet shop. Can you imagine it? Every country picking which rules they will have and which ones they won't. Who on earth would believe that Britain's interests could be promoted in a chaotic Europe like that? Just William.
So the gloves are now off after what had so far been an uneventful campaign. And there's a final chance for the party leaders to trade blows over Europe here in the Commons during Prime Minister's question time tomorrow. Lauren Taylor, ITN, Westminster.
Prince Edward and Sophie Rhys-Jones today released details of their wedding a week on Saturday. It'll be a traditional service and, unlike Princess Diana, the bride will promise to obey her husband. Miss Rhys-Jones, seen here at a friend's wedding, is a great hat lover. However, the dress code for her big day specifies no hats for the ladies, although guests are asked to wear formal dress. A new generation of drugs could work wonders for millions who suffer from rheumatoid arthritis, according to trial results published today. They don't only relieve pain and stiffness, but do it without apparent side effects. Lawrence McGuinty reports.
20 years ago, Newcastle supporters delighted in the talents of one of the greatest centre-forwards they'd ever seen. Malcolm MacDonald, Super Mac. Today, MacDonald suffers from arthritis that stops him playing any sport or even going for a long walk.
When I was 25, that I would look at very fit opponents, knowing that I could just zoom past them. Nowadays, I look at a flight of stairs and wonder how on earth I'm going to get to the top.
Existing arthritis drugs cause severe side effects like bleeding ulcers that affect thousands of patients. The new drugs, it's claimed, are just as effective but don't cause those life-threatening side effects. They are more expensive, but who can count the cost of the pain of arthritis? Lawrence McGuinty, ITN.
Kevin Keegan today named an inevitably much-changed side for England's Euro 2000 qualifier against Bulgaria in Sofia tomorrow. In comes the 19-year-old Jonathan Woodgate, and Robbie Fowler's back too. But as Peter Staunton saw, team selection wasn't Keegan's only problem.
There was chaos at the stadium where England will play. Hundreds of local fans of all ages had invaded the pitch when the squad arrived for a training session. Kevin Keegan having to run the gauntlet of friendly autograph hunters just to reach his players.
Excuse us.
His lineup for the match is adventurous to say the least. 6 changes from Saturday due to injury and suspension. In front of Seaman, a back 5 of Philip Neville, Gray of Sunderland, Campbell, Southgate and the 19-year-old sensation from Leeds, Jonathan Woodgate. In midfield, only Batty and Redknapp. And up front, Shearer, Sheringham and Robbie Fowler. It's high risk, but it's been forced onto the coach.
There's always missed opportunities and adjustments to make. But that's as I expected. You know, when I watched other people try to do it, they had the same problems.
He diplomatically refrained from complaining about the pitch, a bumpy outfield and goal mouths which will give Seaman big problems. Peter Staunton, ITN Sport.
The main points again, a deal on a Serb withdrawal from Kosovo is imminent, but the talks could go on all night. Jonathan Aitken is starting an 18-month jail sentence tonight for lying and perverting the course of justice. And as we've just seen, Kevin Keegan has dramatically reshaped his England team. Tonight's financial figures, the FTSE 100 index closed up 19.5 points. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones finished down almost 144 points. The pound was trading at just over 160 against the dollar. And for a change, it was down 1.34 cents against the euro. Now for a look at tomorrow's papers. And most of them lead on Jonathan Aitken's jail term. The Guardian, whose investigation with Granada TV led to his ill-fated court action, devotes most of its front page to the story. It details what it calls the web of deceit that led to his downfall. The Telegraph reports on the ruin of the former cabinet minister. It shows a photograph of his 3 daughters leaving the Old Bailey. The Express calls it the final disgrace and shows that photo of a shattered Jonathan Aitken taken through the window of the prison van. The Mirror also leads on the story with a picture of the prison van that took him off to Belmarsh jail. It says he was nailed by the simple sword of truth and the trusty shield of British fair play. The Sun chooses a different lead. Below its headline, Doomed, is a photograph of a group of holidaymakers taken minutes before 4 of them, including one Briton, drowned in a rafting accident in Austria. And that's it from all of us on the ITV Nightly News. Good night.
Hello, good evening. This is how today's weather looked from satellite. The patch of cloud in the south and west has produced spots of rain. That's going to edge a little further eastwards across southern counties tonight. Odd spots of rain from that. The swirl of cloud in the east that produced heavy rain today, well, that's on its way out gradually overnight, moving away to the east. And these speckled shower clouds that have been across other parts of Britain, they're going to melt away. Clearing skies means quite a chilly night for many of us, just 3 or 4 degrees in places. So for tonight then, the odd heavy showers that are still lingering in the east, they'll soon die out now. The south rather cloudy. Elsewhere, as we said, clearing skies, 3 degrees. That's low enough for a touch of ground frost. For tomorrow, a sunny start for most of us. The overhang of cloud in the south will soon move away. And then for most of us, it's going to be a dry day. Just the odd shower down the eastern side of Britain and some thickening cloud for the northwest, producing spots of rain. No more than that. Basically a dry story for most of us tomorrow, with some sunny spells as well. Temperatures may touch 19 in the south. That's around 66. 15 to 17 further north. 15 is 59. The pollen count's on the up as well. There's been a lot of pollen stored in the grass in the wet weather we had, and it's on the way up tomorrow. Good night.
Powergen. Power, whatever the weather. Now ahead of sci-fi drama in The Visitor, a look back at the day in our region in Central News.
AIDS fear for woman injected in syringe attack. We follow the paedophile protest to Downing Street. And the dogs in need of some puppy love.
This is Central News Extra with Dan Baker.
Good evening from Central News. A 17-year-old girl faces an agonising wait to see if she's contracted AIDS. It follows an attack in a pub when she was stabbed with a syringe.
Lisa Hawley from Nottingham is now recovering after becoming the victim of an unprovoked and senseless attack. She was approached by a man while drinking in a pub. She says his eyes were wide open and staring, as if he were on drugs.
And all I did was went like that in my arm. And then after that I didn't think out of it, you know what I mean? It was gone. And all of a sudden I went funny and everything, but when I went back to tell my friend, I just fell on the table. So I went all funny and everything.
Lisa's arm became badly bruised and painful. The attack happened at the Lion Hotel in the centre of Nottingham. Lisa had to have tests for diseases like hepatitis and AIDS. She now has to wait 8 weeks to see if those tests are positive. The attacker's described as about 5 feet 10 inches tall with a skinny build. He had a gold tooth at the front of his mouth. Nick Kehoe, Central News Extra.
A petition has been handed in to Downing Street by protesters opposing plans to house convicted paedophiles in flats at Nottingham Jail. They say their children will be at risk if the proposals go through. The journey, which has taken campaigners from the gates of Nottingham Prison to the Houses of Parliament in London. They've gone there today with a 24,000 signature petition to show their anger at Home Office plans to house convicted sex offenders in flats at Nottingham Jail. Police have said that the men will be supervised at all times, but the protesters are not convinced. 2 children were chosen to hand over the petition at number 10.
We don't want them in the area because there's loads of children around.
The protesters hope that the strength of feeling will now be understood by the decision makers.
I'm really proud of my daughter, the way she's handled it, and Carl. I think they've done brilliantly. I just hope that someone listens to us now and gives us some answers and says that it's not going to go ahead.
The campaigners say they'll fight the plans all the way for the sake of their children's safety. The sister of an East Midlands tourist murdered by Cambodia's notorious Khmer Rouge has spoken for the first time about how one of his killers was brought to justice. Pat West reports.
Backpacker Mark Slater from Corby was murdered along with 2 other tourists kidnapped by Khmer Rouge guerrillas 5 years ago. Yesterday in the Cambodian capital Phnom Penh, a former commander with the Khmer Rouge was jailed for life for Mark's murder.
It's a mixed reaction. It's brought back some of the trauma, obviously, and the pain of 5 years ago, but we're absolutely jubilant that the outcome, we're very, very satisfied.
But the family have been told 2 more former rebel officers, now senior members of the Cambodian army, also face charges relating to Mark's murder.
We've never thought this was the work of one man, and to know that 2 other senior officers in the Khmer Rouge that were also involved, they're going to be brought to justice as well, hopefully, and this, we couldn't be more pleased.
The family has also been awarded compensation for Mark's death.
Now with a look at some other stories in the East Midlands tonight, here's Sarah Berridge.
The Cambridgeshire foster parents accused of abducting 2 youngsters in their care today began a formal application to adopt the children. Jeff and Jennifer Bramley have applied to the High Court in London for the right to bring up the 2 girls. 3 men jointly charged with murdering a bandsman from RAF Cranwell in Lincolnshire have been remanded in custody. 28-year-old Adrian Tribe was attacked at Sleaford during a night out with friends. A minibus driver accused of causing the death of 5 members of a football team has appeared in court. Daniel Randall, in the red jacket, appeared with the vehicle's owner, Herbert Jones, seen here in the middle. He's accused of procuring death by dangerous driving. The accident happened on the M42 at Measham in Leicestershire. A 31-year-old man has been charged with assault in connection with an attack that left a man in a hospital's intensive care unit. The 58-year-old was left with a fractured skull after being beaten up close to his home at Ilkeston in Derbyshire.
And finally, an appeal for a bit of puppy love. A stray and her 5 puppies have been taken in at Babington Hall Kennel at Alresworth in Nottinghamshire. Staff say the number of strays is up by an incredible 300% on normal figures. Although they've managed to find homes for Mum Meg and 2 of her litter, 3 puppies still need new homes. Irresistible. That's it from us for now. We're back at 6:10 tomorrow morning. Until then, have a good night.
Central Weather, sponsored by Stay Bright Windows and Conservatories. The clear choice in any weather.
Hello again. Well, the next few days are going to be on the up once more. Temperatures should recover to around about what they should be for June by Thursday and Friday, so just hang on in there. Tonight then will prove mainly dry and chilly, any daytime showers dying out to leave just broken cloud, clear spells and mist patches. Occasional showers will, however, affect parts of Lincolnshire. Tomorrow morning mainly dry, bright and chilly with some sun, just the odd early shower over in the east there, and the afternoon will continue much the same. Mostly fine and dry, a mix of broken cloud and sunshine, just the odd shower over the coast. It might feel slightly warmer than the last day or two as well, tops around normal for June. And Thursday will start dry, bright and a mite nippy, but plenty of warm sun will follow to give a fine end to the day. Tops around 19 Celsius at best, that's 66 Fahrenheit, and Friday will be much the same. That's it. Bye-bye.
The Central 7-Day Weather Line, 09064 710 711.